Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Pokies Burke, and this is the Career Slay podcast. Imagine the impact we could have on society if everyone loved what they did. That's what Career Slay is all about. I'm interviewing people who love their jobs and asking them how they got there and what they've learned along the way. We're here to slay the fear in career. On today's episode, I'm interviewing Kat Nasseri. Kat Nasseri is a board-certified pelvic and abdominal health physical therapist who is passionate about providing evidence-based and individualized care for all patients. She is experienced in treating adult and pediatric patients who are cisgender, transgender, and non-binary with pelvic floor dysfunction. Kat is committed to educating others on pelvic health and serves as a mentor in Baylor's Women's Health Residency Program. Kat currently works at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago and graduated from the University of Louisville with her bachelor's degree in kinesiology and Spanish and from the University of Kentucky with her doctorate in physical therapy. In this episode, Kat and I first talk about what pelvic floor therapy is and how she found her passion for this practice. She discusses her work with patients of all genders and ages, and she emphasizes the importance of pelvic and abdominal health and the need to overcome the shame and stigma surrounding these topics. We also talk about the role of mentorship in your career, being your authentic self and playing to your strengths. She sees her career as challenging, rewarding, and part of her legacy, with the goal of planting seeds of knowledge and growth in her patients and colleagues. This episode is so informative, and Kat is super fun to talk to, but I will warn you that it's probably not the episode to have on with the kids around, as we talk a lot about body parts and bodily functions. That being said, let's get started. Welcome to Career Slay, Kat.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
So we know each other.
Yeah.
I think you were the only person that I saw through the pandemic, aside from my husband.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, you were my pelvic floor therapist.
Yeah, I was.
And we'll go into more detail about what that is.
Yeah.
But for now, let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Tell me, what were you like as a child?
Basically how I am now. So I was a really loud and excitable kid. I grew up in a really small town in Western Kentucky. When you're in a town of 2,000 people, you I like to call it a free range child, roamed a lot, and it was fun and it was fantastic and really not fearful of many things because there really wasn't a reason to be afraid of anything. I was bored as a kid and ready to get out of that town. I knew from a really young age that I was not supposed to be there for the rest of my life, but I can look back now and be really appreciative.
So where did you go after Kentucky?
Yeah. So, after I graduated high school, I went to University of Louisville for my undergrad, and then I went to University of Kentucky for my physical therapy degree. Then after that, I moved to Chicago. So as soon as I could, I got out of Dodge.
So how did you know you wanted to be a physical therapist?
That's kind of a long story. Also, be succinct.
We have time.
Okay, great. Thanks. So originally I wanted to be a dentist and went into school, got started and was, in my undergrad. Then I went and shadowed some dentists and I was like, oh God, I hate this job. Nobody can talk back to me. How am I going to live? I talk too much for people to not be able to answer me. Right. So had a little existential crisis. And then I went and studied abroad, came back, and my first week back, a friend of mine who worked in the dean's office was like, hey, we want to start this internship program with this nonprofit. I think you'd be great to be our leader of that. Do you want to do it? I'm like, well, I'm coming back after a semester away. I don't have anything else to do. Might as well. So turns out it was with this nonprofit pediatric physical therapy center. I was not involved in the PT side. I was doing marketing and development. Loved it. All was well. And then one day they were like, hey, they're doing a cheerleading practice with these little children who have disabilities, some in wheelchairs, some with prosthesis, some with CP and Down syndrome and various different disabilities. And we need pictures for the newsletter. Can you go take pictures? That's literally all I was doing, was taking pictures. And I went downstairs and it was the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I've simply never seen anything cuter than little children with varying disabilities doing cheerleading practice together. It was the cutest thing. They had uniforms. Oh, I was dead. I was simply dead. There were PTs that were with them who were helping them do the different activities they were doing. And I was like, well, that seems like a really cool job. I think I could do that. So I got into PT actually wanting to do pediatrics because I loved that so much. And so then I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going down this route. So decided to major in exercise science, and then got my double major in Spanish just because why not?
Muy bien.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Muy bien.
Oh, gracias. So yeah, got that and then went on to do my doctorate, like I said, at UK. So it was good.
Do PTs have to do a doctorate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's a 3-year doctorate program.
Okay. So what was your first job after you had gone through all of your studies?
My school was a really heavily like orthopedic program. So because of that, I was like, I should probably capitalize on what I just learned for 3 years. And so I took an orthopedic job here in Chicago, and it was great and I loved it. It was hard. It was really busy. It was on the deep south side of Chicago, which I wanted to do on purpose because there's plenty of people who want to help those who already have help, but there's fewer people who feel like called to help people who don't already have a lot of people lining up to serve them. So I wanted to go somewhere that was underserved. So I went to far south side, and honestly, of every clinic I've ever worked at, it has simply been my favorite. It was the most familial place I've worked. People knew each other and took care of each other and took care of us like as their therapists, and it was great.
What did you do as a therapist?
So there I was treating, when I say orthopedics, I mean like backs, knees, hips, shoulders, all that kind of stuff. So that was more like exercise based, sometimes like working on people, like on their muscles and whatnot. I saw a lot of people like after surgeries and things like that. Random things, but it was good because those are all the things I spent 3 years in my doctorate program learning. Mm-hmm. But I knew I didn't really want to stay in that line of work for forever.
So what did you do after?
So I went into PT school wanting to do pediatrics, right? I was like, I'm on the goal. I'm on the road. This is all I'm doing. I'm doing peds. Don't talk to me about anything else. I did a pediatric rotation in Dallas, actually, and did not love it. Went home every day crying because I was working with kids with some really like significant issues, and it was really emotionally hard. I know I'm making their life better, but I couldn't justify the fact that I couldn't make what was happening, like what their disability was. I couldn't make it go away. Mm-hmm. After I came back from that, I was like, all right, well, clearly everything that I thought I was going to do is not it. Read an article in Elle magazine, like not a PT magazine, straight up Elle. And it said physical therapy changed my life in this one article, right? And I was like, well, that's weird. What did she do? Turns out it was this lady living in New York City who had been living her whole life having painful intercourse and finally got help by going to pelvic floor physical therapy. And she had been misdiagnosed. She had been, seeking treatment in, the biggest city in the United States from really amazing healthcare providers for 10 years, not getting help. It was not getting better. She was still suffering. So finally, somebody sent her to a pelvic health physical therapist and she got better. And I, being the bitter feminist that I am, was a little upset that I hadn't heard about this yet. Like no one that I can remember had told me that this was an option for me.
Not even in school?
No. And I was like in a program that's like a great program. So I went and I asked about it and I was like, what's happening? Like, what are we doing? Like, I need to know more about this. And they're like, oh, there's a lecture at the end of your 3rd year. I was like, well, by the end of 3rd year, I've already decided what I'm going to do. We've accepted jobs and stuff. Like that's too late. There at the time, I believe was only one pelvic health PT in the entire state of Kentucky, or one clinic. Yeah. And, so she let me come shadow and I was in the room with her and I will like never in my life will I forget this moment. All of a sudden, this little voice said, this is where you're supposed to be. And that's all it said. And then it went away. And I was like, well, I guess that's significant. I think this is something I'm supposed to do.
So for those who don't know, what is pelvic floor therapy?
So the new name in the last few years, we call it pelvic and abdominal health physical therapy. So what that is we treat conditions involving obviously the pelvis and abdomen. What does that entail? So we have muscles, obviously nerves, ligaments, all these different things that sit within our pelvis. The muscles of our pelvic floor, which is this kind of bowl of muscle at the bottom of your body, they have a couple of main jobs. They have to be able to hold stuff in. They have to be able to let go to be able to evacuate bowel and bladder. And also for a person with a vaginal canal to elongate to have vaginal penetration during intercourse, or for insertion of like a tampon for menstrual care, or insertion of a speculum for a pap smear for like cancer screening, those kinds of things. That's what those muscles are responsible for. But just like any other muscle in our body, they can be dysfunctional for any number of reasons. And what those can result in are things most commonly what people think about is urinary incontinence. Then you have conditions of the bowel, meaning like constipation is really super common, or people have issues with fecal incontinence. Then, and then you also think about pregnancy and postpartum. People can have, some level of discomfort is normal during pregnancy, but there is a level that is now dysfunctional and people can't live their day-to-day lives without pain, and that's not okay. And then afterwards, right? So some issues with healing, your body is significantly changed during pregnancy. There's no good way to get a baby out. That's what I always say. I should have had a baby before I did this job because, my God, at this point, I know too much and I don't know that I can do it. I don't know how you do it. Like, I genuinely.
It's traumatic.
Women are warriors. Women are warriors.
And that's actually how we met.
That is how we met, which is crazy.
I was having back pain while I was pregnant.
Right.
And someone referred me to you.
Thank
I
God.
had no idea about this world of pelvic floor therapy. And you gave me exercises to do that really alleviated some of that pressure and that pain.
Yeah, which, thank goodness, right? Like, it's really debilitating whenever it happens.
For those who aren't familiar with pelvic floor therapy, it's not just for women, though.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we treat men as well, so they can have pelvic floor dysfunction. We treat children, so that's how I've been able to connect some of my original desires about getting into PT and wanting to work with children. And then my big thing now is working with the transgender population, which is fantastic and exciting. And yeah, so it's not just, that's why we changed the name. Our national group changed the name from Women's Health to Pelvic and Abdominal Health, because we treat many, many more patients than just women. Yeah.
So tell me, what do you do now?
Now I'm here in Chicago working with a surgeon. So he does gender affirmation surgery, both top and bottom, meaning both chest surgery and then pelvic surgery.
Why is it important to have knowledge of pelvic floor and abdominal health?
Our pelvis is the keystone of our body. We all prioritize our brains and our hearts because they are vital to our function, but we would also die if our pelvis wasn't working, right? If our pelvis didn't do its job, if we couldn't pee or poop, we would be dead. Also, if people couldn't have sex, none of us would be here. So, there's that. It is important because there are so many issues that can arise that, number one, not that many people even consider to be problematic. They're like, oh, I'm just supposed to live with this. Secondly, there are so few people who can talk about it. And it's important as a patient to know that if you have issues with anything that I just mentioned, there is a person who can help you and can tell you if it's treatable or not, right? From a physical therapy standpoint, that's not surgery, that's not medication. It's a more conservative treatment, but it is a good option and can be really helpful. And it can make life at least livable while you're pregnant so that you can have a baby and not be, miserable during one of the most beautiful times of your life. This is beautiful. You're growing an entire baby and you want to be miserable? No.
Yeah, I think, during my experience, there were a lot of things going on, and I felt like I didn't really have anyone who advocated for me the way you advocated for me. And you made me feel very comfortable to the point where I put my trust in you and was able to really just tell you what was going on, and you were able to help me through. You were actually kind of you taught me how to labor.
Right.
At one point.
Yeah. This is how you're going to have a baby. Let's talk about it. Because who else is going to tell you? It's so isolating to have issues that you don't feel like anybody else can talk to you about, it can be really shamey.
Yeah. I think a lot of the things that you address as a practitioner are topics that no one wants to talk about in society.
Absolutely. People come in and they're telling me stuff. And my favorite thing is people are like, oh, I think this is going to be TMI. And I'm like, honey, first of all, no such thing. First of all, I haven't been surprised in years by anything someone has told me. So at this point, I'm begging for someone to surprise me with something they have to say about their pelvis. But second of all, I'm like, do you say that whenever you're going to tell your doctor about your shoulder? Like, this is TMI, but here's a symptom that I have? No, like, you don't say that. But we have so much shame wrapped up in our pelvis. We don't want to talk about it. And I think that stems really far back, right? I mean, there's an appropriate amount, right? Kids love talking about poop. So do I. Never grew out of that, apparently. Here I am. But this is normal bodily function. Like, of course we need to talk about this. Why wouldn't you? Like, tell me all about it. And whenever something goes wrong, it can be so isolating. Like, people come in and like, I have to be the only person who's dealing with this. And I'm like, why do you think I have a full-time 40-hour-a-week job doing only this? Like, because you're not the only person.
And just on that point, you know, I know we went through this experience together during the pandemic, and a lot of it is not only the physical health aspect, but it's also the mental health aspect. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
For sure. I will tell you, I think about 95% of my job is like some mental health stuff, and just like reaffirming for people that you're not alone. There's medical reasons why these things are happening, and you're not less of a person for it.
Yeah, no, it's really incredible how you infuse passion and purpose into what you do every day. Let's talk a little bit more about mentorship. How has mentorship played a role in your career?
Mentorship is everything. If not for them, seriously, I couldn't do it. So I'll say my first mentor was my very first manager. Shout out to Neeraj, who at my very first orthopedic job really taught me how to be a professional and how to like be a functioning adult, right? I was 25 and just, you know, new to a career, and it's hard. It's hard to get your first, like, your first job is hard. Like, I have to do all that, like, myself. It's all me and pay bills. Like, what?
And pay bills.
Like, that's so crazy. Where's my mom? Like, no. So thank God for him to just like really show me the way, right? And made me a functional therapist. And then I decided to do my residency at Baylor in Dallas, which is how I got down to Texas. And that's how I learned. And that's how I learned so much about the pelvis and about pelvic and abdominal health, was through my mentors there. So I had amazing mentorship, and those women are still my mentors to this day. And then inspired me to realize how important having somebody holding your hand a little bit, right? And showing you the way, how important that is, and then made me want a mentor as well. So that's now still really important to me. But without mentors, I simply could not do my job. I've learned so much from them about being a therapist, being a pelvic health therapist, and just being a person. Like, yeah, they taught me everything.
Has there been a challenge that you've had to overcome, or any sort of adversity you've had to overcome in your career?
Yeah. I think my biggest challenge is that I get really excited about a lot of things, and I have a tendency to overcommit. One of the biggest things that I am still working on is knowing your no. So understanding like you can't do it all, and that's okay. And that doesn't make you bad or lazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about knowing your boundaries so that you can give your fullest self to everything that you do.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because if you say yes to everything, then does it matter? Does your yes ever matter? Right. Like, are you ever being discerning about what you're doing and picking things that truly matter to you? Or are you just saying yes because you don't know how to say no?
Yeah.
And I definitely, I still struggle with that, right? And I hate saying no because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and I don't want to miss out on an opportunity that what if that was the thing that was going to be great, right? But you know, my dad is an immigrant. He's from Iran, and he has a different sense of work than, you know, others do, and that's great, and I love him for it. But you know, so I think in my head, I'm like, well, if I say no, then someone's going to think that I don't want to work. And I want to work. I absolutely want to work. I'm here to work, and I'm going to work hard, and I will work harder than everybody else, right? Like, that's the message. And my dad has worked so hard. Both of my parents have worked so hard. I feel this drive to meet expectations that they don't really nobody places on me, right? Yeah. I place that on myself. I'm mirroring some things that I saw growing up as far as like dedication to work. But at the same time, like, times change, right? And how my career is very different from what my parents did and still do. You know, how I'm going to manage that is going to be different, and who I am is different from who they are. And so I have to learn, which I am, and doing my best, growing, thriving, to figure this out and like figure out how I can like interact, especially within the workplace, with being a woman, with being a helper, and with also being responsible with myself in my own time.
Yeah. So how has that challenge shaped you as a leader?
Well, I mean, it's definitely still an evolving process, like figuring out who I am as a leader, right? Because I want to stay true and authentic to myself. Authenticity, I think, is so important to me. And that's really something that like I'm incorporating. So, you know, have my own like personal mission statement, and authenticity is a big part of that, because I think what's easy to do is I lose myself in the excitement of opportunity. And because of that, I am no longer staying true to who I am and what I want. And that can be really hard. And then not know why I don't feel good, right? Like internally, like, why don't I feel good? Oh, because like I'm not being authentic to myself, which was a big part of like my job switch this year, leaving Baylor to come here to Rush in Chicago. What I'm doing now feels authentic to me. What my career path was going to be in Texas, as amazing an opportunity as it was a lot of administrative roles, which I love leadership. I don't love like
paperwork.
Minutia. Yeah. I don't thrive there. That's not exciting for me. I can't stay excited about that. So like that's hard. I'm grateful for those opportunities, but I also know that's not authentic to me. And so whenever I really sat back and like, where does my authenticity lie? It's in being excited about new stuff, and working in this transgender space is new. I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't know and we are still learning, and I get to be a part of that. And that's exciting to me, and that feels authentic to me. Learning that being authentic and true does not mean I have to change who I am, right? It's being who I am and playing to those strengths, and understanding that there are situations and roles that play to my strengths, and it's okay, and wait for those, because they will come. And when they do, take them, because then I'm a better person for it, and I'm a better leader for it. I'm a better mentor for it. I'm a better friend. I'm a better therapist. All the things. I'm better when I do it.
Yeah, I love the idea of playing to your strengths and really leaning into that, because I think within the space that you work in, it's very easy to be sad. It's very easy to, you know, be sympathetic and empathize with your patients and get into this place of melancholy. But I think what you bring to those situations is joy and hope. And that's what keeps your patients coming back to you, because they want to be around that energy and they want to feel like, hey, I can get better too.
Well, thank you. That's really kind. And I hope that I bring that. I love that. I love that you, as my patient and friend, like took that from me, because that's exactly what it is. I'm like, I don't want people to feel like there's nothing that we can do. Like, we can do something, and this is going to get better, and I can help you, and this is going to be great.
Why is it so important to find meaning in your work?
God, so, you know, that whole like, you'll never work a day in your life if you found something you love. No.
Heard it a lot.
Right? That's so not true. Like, we all know that's a lie. I love what I do. And that's straight up lies. Like that. No, it's work. Work is work. Like, it's okay. Like, work is work. But there will be days that I'm like crawling out of my bed because I don't want to work. There are days that are long and hard and heartbreaking. But if it's a job that is meaningful and that's fulfilling, it makes it easier to get through the hard days. It makes it possible to get through the harder days, because otherwise, how do you get through it? I don't know. I mean, maybe there's better people out there than me, but damn, like, hard days are hard.
Looking back, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Too many things, really. But I think the biggest thing is be patient. I expected a lot of things to go differently in my life. If you'd asked me at 20 if I was going to be here right now doing my job that I do, I would never believe it, right? And that was not that long ago, 13 years. But man, what has changed? I think at that time I still thought I was going to be a dentist. And now this is so funny, but like, we do this class for our residents at Baylor, and on a Saturday. And I've been many times because I love it. And the person who teaches it is fantastic. And she teaches some TMJ things. And every time I'm like, this feels so personal and invasive, putting my finger in someone's mouth. And she's like, ma'am, you know what you do. Like, you know what you do. And you're telling me that putting like, you know, having to like work on someone's like muscle from the inside of their mouth, like that's invasive. Like, I'm like, yes, this is too much. Like I am way too close to this person right now. Give me a vagina all day. No, not come into your mouth. So anyway, I would tell little 20-year-old me, I would tell me to be patient because the things I expected to happen, I had a timeline in my head that I thought I was going to follow and I didn't. I had a path that I thought I was going to follow and I didn't. And then every step of the way, I have thought that I thought I was behind, right? That I was not doing, I had missed some crucial step along the way and that had put me behind. And I never knew what that was, but I just felt it. But things have continued to fall into place and things have continued to line up in a way that has made me who I am and that has put me into the role where I am, where I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling happy. And this is maybe another step along the way that's going to put me somewhere else. And I don't know, like that's exciting, but sit back, enjoy it. Like you're okay.
You're okay.
Everything that's happening is supposed to be happening. You're okay.
You're okay.
You're good.
So if you had to sum up your career in 3 words, what would it be?
I have a couple more than 3.
Okay.
Okay, great. Because number 1 of who I am as a person, but number 2, because like it's hard to define your career into that, right? But my career is challenging and rewarding, and I am not saying that I am defined by my career, but I do believe my career is a huge part of my legacy, right? And I'm impacting people's lives every single day. I hope the legacy is positive. I hope that it's, you know, the other part of my mission statement is that it's a legacy of excellence. That's my career. And I love that. It's exciting. And I love that it's challenging. I love that I have to think kind of hard every single day and that people present me with puzzles of their health that I get to put together and make it all make sense or not make sense, but usually make it make sense. And like, oh my God, look at all the connections we can make. And this is why all of this is happening. And so it's great, but it is challenging. It is exciting. It's rewarding. And I think it's a part of my legacy.
Yeah, you once told me that you see your job as planting seeds.
Yeah, that's it. Little seeds along the way of just knowledge and growth and excitement, and legacy is important to me. And how do I plant seeds that create other trees, like within patients, within other therapists, within anybody? Like, how do I plant a seed that grows and leaves something, a piece of me behind? Like Mother Willow and Pocahontas, that's me. Like wrinkly as hell, but like left a lot of seeds. You know that. Like, you know, she had a lot of stuff that she passed on, right? All that wisdom.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mother Tree.
I mean, I'd like to think I'm one of your branches.
You absolutely are. Thank you so much for being a branch. You're doing great. Doing great out there. Lots of squirrels. Now I get to talk about this on your podcast and like share this information, and we get to plant more seeds.
Well, thank you so much, Kat, for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
I really appreciate you taking the time and for sharing your story and for giving us a lens on pelvic floor and abdominal health that we haven't heard before, and for also just being you and for the energy and positivity you bring.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being you. Thank you for everything that you have given me as a friend. You're an angel, and I couldn't appreciate you more. You were part of the kick in my butt to make a big change in my life. And I honestly owe a lot of that to you. So thank you for being an inspiration, because you inspired me throughout the pandemic. I was like, if this lady can do it through everything you were going through, I can do it too. And then just have continued to do so. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
You're the best.
You're the best.
No.
Okay, I'm the best.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know I was going to argue, so great. Thanks. Thanks so much.
The Career Slay podcast is a co-production of Career Slay and Wild Reply, produced by Michael Burke. If you like the show, subscribe and give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. New episodes drop every other Tuesday, so stay tuned for some great conversations on slaying the fear in career.